Hello everyone, this is Diane, and I have the final two of the journals that I created during the Journal Making for Beginners videos. I did add a few extra things to these last two that probably most people don't have in their stash, but mostly they're still very simple and with minimal supplies. No sewing, no stamping, no digitals. Let's look at this one first. This one has a more masculine flair to it. It is made with a Tim Holtz paper from a paper pad called Dapper. He no longer makes paper pads like the 12 by 12 paper pads, and I still have a stash of some of his pads. So it made me happy to be able to use some, and I thought that looked like a really neat, like a very old-fashioned wallpaper, looks like to me. And then these pieces that I collaged on the front are cut aparts from some of his older pads, and I already had those cut up in my stash. And then I felt like this crease was weak, like it wanted to, it would have torn easily, it seemed to me. And so I just, after I sewed it together actually, I added these two little strips of fabric to just reinforce that. I tied it with a black seam binding piece. And here's one of the extra kinds of pieces that I used. Someone had sent me a little packet of vintage cigar bands, and they are so beautiful. And I thought this was a perfect journal to use them in, so I couldn't resist doing that. So that is something that you probably wouldn't have, most people wouldn't have in their stash, but you might. So you could add any element that you might have in your stash, whether it's book pages, book illustrations that you cut out, or whatever. If you have washi tape, you can use some of that, where I used the cigar bands. This was one of the Tim Holtz papers. It's actually this paper with the rulers, was all different rulers lined up, and then the reverse side was this really neat looking grid. So I made the little label out of that. And I used a lot of images from children's books with men, either dads with their families or men at work, at their jobs. And I thought that was fun. But I also used some other images too. And I was going to use, I had some, I'm not sure where they are now. I had some images from children's book of like a daddy bear and his son and stuff like that. So I might include those in the extra image pack or extra ephemera pack that I will include with both journals. This one is a large tag, so I made tags and cards out of file folders. So if you've been watching the series on Journal Making for Beginners, you've seen the ephemera that I've made for this out of materials that are very easily accessible. So this is a file folder, a dictionary page, a piece of scrapbook paper, as well as this. It's a scrap of that. And then this is from a children's book. Just an image cut out. Scrapbook paper here, and a piece of rickrack, because trim is found easily at Walmart, and it's not that expensive to buy just a little spool of trim. And then I used scraps of scrapbook paper to embellish, and this is from an ephemera pack. You can get ephemera packs at the craft stores that are often inexpensive, especially if Hobby Lobby has them on sale. Ledger paper, you can get this ledger paper at Walmart in a book. It's not that expensive. And here's another image cut from a book. I did use some fabric scraps to make tabs throughout the book. I just glued them, no sewing. Coffee dyeing is accessible to anybody, so this is coffee dyed. Here's another of the elements that I added that is an unusual piece, and that is a vintage cardboard stencil. I do have a few sets of these left in my shop. Some are letters, some are numbers, and some are alphanumeric, like that one. And I added postage stamps, but those are easily found. You can cut them off the mail you receive. I just stuck in some index cards and a flashcard. This is Tim Holtz paper again from that Dapper pad. And another cutout from a children's book, and I just glued a piece of coffee dyed paper back there for journaling. There's another stencil, lined paper here. And this is a book page. So this happens to be a vintage art book about lettering, but whatever book pages you might have would be great to put into a journal, a simple journal like this. There's a father and son mowing the lawn. These are both scrapbook paper cut off pieces. And here I just embellished with a couple of tiny paper scraps, and I just stapled them on. A budget book page, a game card stapled on, and this was just an invoice and another cigar band. Oh, it's 2-layered invoice. Didn't even know that. There's another little family picture on just a piece of white copy paper. Another page from a book, just a book page. There's a happy family with the puppy. This index card just has another scrap of scrapbook paper glued on as a tab, and this is an unlined colored index card. There's a collie down there. That makes me think of my dad because I grew up with collies. I love collies. Here's another cigar band. And this is a quilt piece. I just had this scrap, this strip, and I wanted to use it, so I glued it in there. But any fabric strip that you may have, or washi tape strip, even a scrapbook paper strip, just to add a little bit of contrast to the edge. And this is a German little card, but any game card or playing card that you have, you can just paper clip on there. And this is some sheets of little note paper off a little notebook. There's 5 sheets, and I just took a scrap of scrapbook paper and wrapped it around, stapled it, and you have sheets of paper you can write on. And I just clipped it on with a paper clip. And there's a cigar band. I thought this was a neat page from one of those art books that I used. It's the lettering one with the speedball pen and all these sports figures. I thought that was great in this book. I didn't choose that on purpose. I picked it for whatever was on the other side. I just wanted to use one of those pages. And this illustration from a children's book I put onto cardstock and made it a tuck spot. They're reading a book about cats, you can see, and this is one part of the text. We will all find out what this little kitten did. And I have this little greeting card, this vintage greeting card from the 1940s with a kitten. So I tucked that in there. It was just on my desk. Here's something from an ephemera pack, and this came from a book. I love that little traffic cop there. He's so cute. And here is another animal piece. I had the collie, and then this one is a couple of cartoon frogs. I think it's from the Frog He Would a Wooing Go, because it looks like he's courting that lovely lady frog with her fan in her hands. And here is our angled pocket with a daddy and son raking leaves. We have a guest check with some more paper scraps, just kind of stuck together and stapled on to a guest check. And this piece I cut from a Dick and Jane book, and it was a newer Dick and Jane book, a reproduction, but I liked this. It's nice and big, so I glued it to cardstock, and it can be used for journaling. And here's another children's reader book, Alice and Jerry, I think. So this is the man at his job, the salesman. It's backed with ledger paper. And on the back is another piece of the Tim Holtz paper with diagram or illustrations of people doing their calisthenics. I put a cigar band on it and added a tag. This is from a book, a vintage book, and it has clockwork on it. So I glued that on. It wasn't quite tall enough to cover the tag, and so I just kind of traced around the tag on this scrap of paper and cut it a little smaller, and I thought it made a really neat piece at the top. My signature is on the back of that, and this is just a coin envelope and cut from a children's book, a butterfly, and this was also cut from the same book. Scrapbook paper here. Now, I was quite pleased with how this book turned out. The next book, the extra element in this book, is vintage photographs. I just wanted to put something here, and it looks similar to that. It's got this pink and white pale grid and the gray tone flower, and I needed to put something there, and I thought these perfectly complemented the color and the feel. So I put the vintage photo corners on and then glued them all together, and I love it. And you'll see some more photographs throughout the book. I also used a few stamps, and that's a sticker. This little piece, there was a cut-apart page that came with this paper pad, so I used some of the pieces, and some more will come in the pack of ephemera that comes with this journal. This was also part of it. Big screams, hope not, big dreams and grand schemes. I thought that was appropriate for the beginning of the book, and then down here it just says hello, because it's the beginning. This little piece of a pink map was also part of this paper pad. And that's a sticker, like I said. And this is a file folder with dictionary page, children's book, and I added a strip off of a fabric selvage. It's a nice long tag. Now this, I should tell you the measurements of the books. This one is 4 1/4 by 10 and almost 10 3/4. So that's my first long skinny book. And this one is 6 by 9, I believe. Yep, 6 by 9. And I added a piece cut out from a vintage botanical book. Ledger paper. This one has a strip of scrapbook paper with 3 postage stamps that all look the same, and I just thought they would be nice put together like that. This is a small piece of paper, and I made a pocket with another paper scrap, and then this is a Candyland card game. There's a vintage index card in there, and a flash card, and a game card. And this is a piece from that same paper pad. It was called Typecast, and it might have been Creative Memories or We Are Memory Keepers. I don't remember. I got it years ago. Another fabric tab. This has a grid pattern on it. This was from a book or a magazine, and a scrapbook paper scrap. There's another postage stamp with some fabric and lace, and this was from a brochure. And I made a pocket with some scrapbook paper that looks like crossword puzzle, an ephemera piece, and a scrapbook scrap. You could glue some paper to the back so you can write on it, or just glue some photos or something to it. Another small piece, and I used this photo as a pocket. It's a collection of ladies, and there's a little, oh, is that a lady? Or, yep, that's a lady too. I thought it was a little girl peeking through. But 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 6 ladies there. It's kind of neat. And another of those tablet things that I made for the other journal. And a greeting card, or a playing card. And this is just, I don't know, some page from something. Some kind of a ledger. Another page from this paper pad. Oh no. I just added the fabric tabs and I added this to 2 pages. So I'm going to glue that down. When I'm done with this video, I will be tidying up my desk, and then I'll be able to put together the little ephemera packs that will be coming with all of the journals. And I want to say thank you for those of you who purchased journals yesterday. I'll put some a strip of paper or something there to hide where the glue was. Kind of pulled away some of the glossy paper. So I'll just glue something there to hide that. Here's a long, thin scrapbook paper scrap with a piece of lace, and then this is a pink lined paper. Gives you a lot of journaling space there. Those fabric tabs left some glue. Here's another photograph that it already had the corners on it, and I just glued it to some brown cardstock and made it into a pocket. And I tucked in this other scrap of scrapbook paper. And this one I just paper clipped to it. You can do what you like with it. And on the back page is a beautiful pocket made from, I think it's a Blue Fern Studio scrapbook paper, and I just think it's so beautiful. And this is just from an ephemera pack that I got at Hobby Lobby. So is this flower here, and another piece of that paper. It's actually a cardstock that looks like crossword puzzle, and it's got file folder glued to it. My signature. And on the back I added a pink envelope with some ephemera pieces. This came from Hobby Lobby, this came from Amazon. There's nothing in there. You can tuck things in there that you want to preserve. I put some scrapbook paper on the front and back of this because it was white on the inside. And there's that one. So these 2 journals are in my shop right now, and you can just go follow the link below to go find them to see if they're still there. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll be seeing you very soon with another project or another addition to my Etsy shop, whichever comes first. Have a creative day today. Bye-bye.